Hi, my name is Dana Sardano, and this is the Ubuntu Room. I am so glad you're here. Thank you for joining me. You know, I have to say, every week I come on here and I talk about how the Ubuntu Room, we talk about all things personal empowerment and spiritual development and how we are the creators of our reality. And in the last several weeks, I talked about all of, well, at least the foundational chakras and how it's important that we understand what creates balances and imbalances and how to bring that back into balance in order to have a strong foundation moving forward. The last 2 weeks specifically, I talked about the heart chakra, which is all about self-love. And I talked about the throat chakra, which is all about authenticity. And what we're doing is we're setting the stage for the third eye chakra, which is all about discernment and clarity and imagination and intuition. And the crown chakra, which is all about presence and oneness and non-attachment. Today, however, I want to take a little break between what we've created and again, what we've built and where we're going, because the chakras moving forward, the last two chakras are all about the magic, are all about what happens when we fully align ourselves and clear out the gunk and what is accessible to us. Now, it's about the kook and the weird and the magic and all that stuff. And many of us have had experiences, maybe little fringe experiences of the kook that either we don't want to talk about or we're embarrassed or we question the veracity of it. But we've all had something, or at least know somebody who's had something. And the more we align ourselves and the more, and I could talk about Earth's vibration or its frequency raising and the evolution of the planet. And when all that stuff happens, there is going to be more magic and more kook to be had. So I think let's get it out there. Let's talk about it and let's share some stories. So of course, I'm going to share a story and hopefully give you permission to share some stories of your own. So, with that said, let me give you some context. In the spring of 2020, my family and I, we moved to Stuart, Florida. We bought a house. It was new construction, brand new, post Andrew construction, cement block, fortress-like windows and doors, really nobody was getting in or out and no winds were blowing it down. Somewhere around 2021, 2022, and I've talked about this time in my life. This is where the whole fishing rod thing happened. Fishing rods showed up. This is a lot of kooky stuff going on. I think I was going through another layer of awakening, and I was also going through some struggles of my own, physical stuff, and actually my first publisher I was having some difficulties with. So it was a little bit of a rough time for me. But my family and I, my girls were about 10 and 11 years old. We would have dinner together every night. And it was it was just a thing we did every night. I cooked, one of my kids at the table, the other kid cleaned up, we all sat down together, and the whole process from start to finish, an hour or so. And so, same thing, I set the table, I cooked, kids set the table, we sat down, we ate, we did our thing. And at the end of the meal, I pushed my chair out. This is where it gets weird, by the way. I pushed my chair out to start cleaning up, and I look down, and I see something moving under the table. And when I look closer, I'm like, that's a snake. There was a snake under my table. I'm going to say it again, and I'm going to lean in. There was a snake under my table. We're like, oh my God. It was I don't know, it was about this big, and it was the red, yellow, black ones, not the poisonous kind. I think the colors were in a different formation, but it was writhing under the table. And I'm like, Rob, there's a snake under the table. So Rob comes over and he looks, and he looks a little closer, and the snake is wrapped in a Band-Aid. And one of those big boo-boo Band-Aids, and not the kind that you put on your arm and it drizzles and it falls off, the kind that when you stick together, you can't pull it apart, it's you need a blowtorch. And so this snake, just visualize it, is under the table about this big, writhing, wrapped in a Band-Aid with a piece of the Band-Aid stuck to the rug in a house that's built like a fortress at a table where we've been sitting at for an hour. And so I'm like, oh my God, Rob, so we're of course freaking out. There's a snake under the table. So Rob grabs the snake and he immediately, and trust me, at the time we were all in awe of what was happening, but we were focused on the snake. And he's trying to take the Band-Aid off the snake and he can't, it's stuck. So he resigns to the fact that we're going to have to let the snake go outside and it's just going to die. And then something happened to me in that moment. And I can't explain it, and anybody who's into the woo will understand what I'm saying. I knew that this snake was for me. And what I haven't mentioned is my irrational fear of snakes. My mother had an irrational fear of snakes. I had an irrational fear of snakes. I had an instance when I was a kid with a snake and a frog, and it was like a whole thing, and I haven't recovered. So I don't much care for snakes. But I knew it was for me. So I made my husband, I'm like, Rob, get me the oven mitts. So, because I'm a baby. So he gets me the oven mitts, he gets me a tweezer, and I take this snake outside. At this point, it's like wrapped around my wrist and like I'm holding it. And I go outside and I sit by the pool. I sit at the edge of the pool and I put my feet in the water and I'm holding the snake and I'm gently dropping the snake into the water and then taking it out, and then little by little, I'm peeling back the Band-Aid from the snake. And I'm very calm and I'm very methodical and I'm determined, but I'm doing this with grace. So much so that even the snake began to unravel a little bit in calmness. I did this for about 20, 30 minutes, very methodically, and then pull back the Band-Aid till ultimately I freed the snake from the Band-Aid. I take the frog, the Band-Aid, pick a word, Data. I take the snake and I go in the back in the woods and I let it go. And then I go inside. And of course we were all like, oh my God, I can't believe that happened. Now, at the time, I didn't understand the depth of what this was all about. I knew it was weird. We all knew it was weird. Even my husband, who doesn't like to talk about this stuff, like he's a bit of a T-crosser and an I-dotter, but I'm like, Rob, what's the weirdest thing that ever happened to us? And he's like, snake under the table. Like, we all knew it was weird, but I didn't understand the magnitude of what was happening. But like I said, I understood intuitively it was for me. Well, with a little bit of sleep and a little bit of retrospect, I came to understand that the experience that I was having in my professional life, I wasn't being treated with proper care, and I needed to extract myself from the situation. And I got to see that from the snake's perspective, or from the perspective of the caretaker of the snake. And I got to see what was happening in my life from that experience. Again, extracting the snake gently, from the Band-Aid, was extracting myself from the situation. And it was really pretty incredible. Now, I get it. I get any skeptic could say, oh, maybe a screen door was open, or maybe one of the kids brought in. I get it. But when you've had these type of experiences, there is a level of knowing, and you just know. So I'm sharing this because it's like really weird and kind of like a bizarre story that I wanted to share. But I share it because so many of us, we look past the magic that is around us, and we really discount it for disbelief or fear of being weird. But when you begin to believe these things, and when they happen and embrace them, more of them happen. And going back to the whole thing with bringing the imbalances back into balance, when you align yourselves in a way that the third eye chakra begins to be open and working and functioning, more of this magic it just shows itself, because the magic is there. It's our receptivity to it is really the difference. So there it is. My weird is out there for you. And like I said, I encourage you to share yours as well. Thank you for listening. Embrace your woo. Tune in next week when I talk third eye chakra, and maybe if you're good, I'll share about the time that the 9/11 people warned me about COVID. Stay tuned. And with that said, as always, Ubuntu.
Ubuntu.
Ubuntu.